Good evening, ma.
Good evening. I hope people can hear me clearly. Okay. Okay. Today we'll continue where we stopped last class. You know, we talked of decision making last class. Yeah, I told you what decision making is all about. Types of decision making, which we discuss certainty. That one is explain and the time analysis. So I will briefly say what sensitivity analysis so that we go straight to what we have today, which is module 3, linear programming. That's the main thing we have today. But let me just briefly say something in so that I will move to what to do today. So this sensitivity analysis is going, you know, for a new product, you know, for instance, in a new product, for a marketer to introduce a new product in the market, a marketer might not know actual market demand of that product and the exact price that the market will accept. In such situation, decision maker will estimate in the decision making, not know the actual demand. You know, when introducing a new product, you might not know the customer. In that case, you do estimates of being that this price be that in order to suit the customer to make decision. Now, if the estimated that if is in a rabbit okay. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yes. Can you hear me now? Because the network was a little bit shaking. I hope people can hear me now.
Yeah, we can hear you from now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I was discussing about sensitivity analysis, which I said is the study of how changes in the variables of a decision affect the optimal solution of that model, which I'm discussing in a real life situation. That's when a marketer wants to introduce a new product, you know, you might not know the actual demand that we accept for the do an estimate price that will suit that product and now use it for his decision making. That's all about what I'm trying to explain about sensitivity analysis. You know, it is practically impossible to know the actual value of the relevant quantitative variables until the decision has been implemented. Because what I mean by this is that you can't just say that when I'm introducing this product, the demand will be like this and this price will suit it, until you do an estimate and say, okay, let's take this, maybe little quantity, and test and know how the market will be. You now use that little quantity being introduced in the market, knowing how the customer will buy the product with the price attached. You will now use it to make decision, saying that, okay, see the social demand and this is the price that is being adequate for this product. So that's all about, you can read more and know what sensitive analysis is all about. Let's just go straight to what we have today. No, talk of the module 3, which is linear programming. That's what we will do today. So linear programming, that's our next topic, which we will do today. Linear programming is the constant optimization with linear programming in production process. That is the area that is mainly in production situation.
Ma, please, can you take that again? We didn't hear it.
I said what you are doing today is linear. You are making noise. So the noise is the background. I don't know what. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma.
Good. I said what we are going to do today is module 3, which is linear programming. Are you listening to me?
Yes, ma.
Which I said that it's just that what linear programming is, because linear programming situation, that is where you use linear programming to solve a problem of production situation. What do I mean by this? In a production situation, let me just use example like a baker that wants to produce bread and cake. You use flour. Flour can use to produce bread and equally used to produce bread. Which butter you use butter in producing bread, which also use it in, So in such a situation, what the decision making is all about is that how many quantity will I use in making bread, and also how many quantity will I use it? Everything that businessman is looking at is maximizing profit and minimizing costs. In a situation like this, like when a baker, like a unit of bread, which like a baker has 900 grams, yeast 600 grams, flour 6,000 grams. In a situation like that, and maybe you want to use it and produce both bread. How many grams of butter will I use? How many will I use for yeast? How many will I use for butter in order to make this bread? So that I will also use some quantity in making my cake in order to maximize my profits. That's all about where linear programming is being used in solving production problem. So there is some areas. One is you use it in product mix. This product mix is just a quality example of what I just said now. Maybe you want product mix, which maybe you are using the same input in order to get different, outputs, like this bread and cake. You use the same flour in making two of them. Another place that you use this linear programming, where you can apply it, is budgetary and allocation.
I'll need to order in March. It'll take several weeks to get it mailed here. We don't have weeks.
People are making noise, so you are distracting. Noise. You can also use it in budgetary allocation. Hey, noise.
Please, Chizoma, mute your mic.
Chizoma, please, Chizoma, mute yourself.
You mute. That noise is too much. Another way you can apply this linear programming is in budgetary allocation, where you make a budgetary allocation where advertisement is being used, in the sense that you want to, maybe you're introducing a new product and you have to do advertisement. The allocation now, how will I allocate this thing in different advertisement situation? Like, we have radio, we have television, we have newspaper, magazine, billboard, all those advertisement points. How we are going to allocate these resources in order to, divide it into different units for the advertisement of that product. Another place that you can use it is in portfolio management. Portfolio management in making investments. How are you in portfolio management? That one is how you use it for you to invest.
Oh, wow.
You don't want to mute your this thing.
The one you made today, this is personal use.
Okay, Chukwueze, mute yourself.
I said another one is portfolio management. This one is normally help. This application of linear programming.
Please, can support
decision
them.
Opportunities. This one is used in decision in investment. Using it to help. It helps linear program in this situation help in making investments.
Are you supposed to be using like? Are you not that?
So let's look at how linear programming models have a different component. There's different components of this linear programming. You have the objective function, you have the constraint equation, and the non-negativity constraint. What you see, the constraints, meaning those things that normally limits. You have limits on how you are going to use these resources. The limits, so that you will not violate that. Then another is the non-negativity constraint, in the sense that after the mathematical solution of that thing, it means that no negative, you won't get, when there's no negative values, it means you have optimal. The profit is being at optimal point. But as we go on, you understand all these things I'm saying. Then there are many following procedure by which this linear program is being adopted. Then one is that, first of all, you study the problem thoroughly. When you have a problem, all these things is a mathematical application, which, remember what quantitative technique is all about. It's a collection of mathematical based techniques that help in solving help management in making decisions. So you just have that thing in mind. That is same thing that is leaning on to this linear programming. All these things lies in helping management in decision making. When you see a problem, first of all, you study the problem thoroughly. After studying the problem, you now tabulate all the relevant data in that problem. Don't worry, you see an example that we do. You understand all these things I'm saying clearly. Another one, you now identify all the relevant constraints that will help you in expressing this thing. You help you to clearly express in that problem, know the problem you are trying to tackle. Then the last one now, you state the non-negativity constraint, which I have already said. So let's look at this illustration one. With it, you understand what I'm saying. This illustration one, they said, the management of Zenith Corporate Finances want to invest. This one is now under portfolio management, because I told you there are different ways linear programming has to be applied. Different application of linear programming, which I told you product mix. I explained portfolio management and budgetary allocation. This kind of question is now portfolio management, because I deal with investment. Always remember what I said so that it will help you. So this illustration is saying that the management of any corporate finance want to invest now. See how the portfolio management is, how linear programming is going to use now in this question. For a specified period, a sum of 100 million, the finance department of the company is asked to provide data regarding expected yield from good quality, expected good quality, common and preference stock. Do you understand? Yield from good quality, common and preference stock. That's one area I want to invest. Another one is corporate bonds. Another one is government bonds and savings certificates. That is the area you want to invest this 1 million, 100 million. He now asks that the relevant information regarding expected annual yield of different category of investment is shown below. That is the table. It's a category of investment now. It's telling us that expected annual yield. It's telling us that common stock, that you invest 5% of that 100 million in common stock. That's the question. Again, you invest 7% of that 100 million in preference stock. You invest 10% of that 100 million in corporate bond. Invest 8% of 100 million in government bond. And lastly, 6% of 100 million in savings certificates. You now say, see, the question continues. He said, assume that these returns are stable, that is stable, and that for the planning horizon, they will remain constant. He said again, assume further that the diversification goals of the management are specified by these statements. Listen now. He said, investment in common and preference stock should not be more than 30% of total investment. Are you getting it? We are going to do that linear programming in a mathematical form. We remember what quantitative technique is all about, in a mathematical form, that we help management in solving its problem, making decision. So he said that investment in common stock and preference stock should not be more than 30% of the total investment. Another one is that investment in government bond should not be less than investment in savings certificates. Investment in corporate and government bond should not be more than 50% of the total investment. You now say, formulate the problem as a linear programming model that will enable management to determine the investment portfolio that will maximize expected annual return. Have you seen how the thing, which I say there are three components of this linear program, which I mentioned The first one is objective function. I said the second one is a constraint. And the last one is non-negativity constraints. First thing you will do is to state those components, which is number one, objective function. Objective function, stating all those investments that they say you use that 100 million. First, common stock, you can say, okay, let me label common stock as S1, or you can use anything you want. Let's just say, let's use this example here, that let me label a common stock as S1. Let me label preferred stock as S2, corporate bond at S3, government bond as S4, and lastly, savings certificate as S5. Remember the percentage they say, and you say that, you know, the first, you say the total year of the investment, you know, is 100 million. And he said that for common stock, how many percent they say you should yield for common stock? They say 5%. 5%, he say 0.5 S1. And the preference stock, they say 7%. You say 7% is for S2, which is, you are looking what the question is. And so on. The other one, he said 6.8%. But you consider those ones the question asks. You know, he asks about common stock, preference stock, government in this thing, and so on and so forth. Let's continue. Then you now say maximizing year now. All those percentage, 5% of the first one, common stock is 5%. Preference stock is 7%. And you know that common stock is X1, we label it. Preference stock is S2, we label it. And it say it's 7%. Then plus the corporate bond is 10%, which is S3. Government bond is 8%, which is S4. Then lastly, savings certificate is 6%. That is maximizing year. Then the next component, which I say the constraint. The constraint now, you use this equality now. All these S1, S2, S3, you know, these 5 investments, they say is 100 million, which I use the inequality sign, which I said S1 plus S2 plus S3 plus S4 plus S5 is less than, it might be less than or is equals to 100%. Because when I say less than, is that for common stock, it might be, you know, when you say 5% of 100 million, you get what common stock is, which is less than 100 million. When you say the second one, you get the percent is less than 100 million. When you get this one, is less than. When you get this, that's why I say this is less than or equals to 100, because when you sum all of them will now be equal to 100 million. Have you seen how the mathematical derivation of this question, which is quantitative techniques, stating it is a mathematical this thing, you know, that help management to make decisions. Have you seen the constraint using equality sign? Then the question now said, the first one said that the investment in common stock and preference stock will not be less than 30%. What will you do now? 30% of this 100 million, what will you give us? When you find 30% it's of 100 million, you get 300 million. Because he said the common stock and the preference stock will not be less than. So you now say that common stock plus the preference stock is less than or equal to 300,000. Because he told us that it will not be more than, it will not be more than 30%. Which means it will be less than. The question said that common stock and preference stock should not be more than 30%, which means that common stock and preference stock should be less than 30%, which is 30% of this 100 million, or is equal to 30%. That is how to express it. That is the equality sign which I used. Then another one, he said that the corporate bond, the question said that the government bond should not be less than investment in the savings certificate. When you say it should not be less than, it means it will be greater than. He said investment in government bond should not be less than. It means that investment in government bond should be more than investment in the savings certificate. That is what the equation means. That is using the equality sign to solve it. You now say S2, which is government bond, will now be greater than or equal to the investment in government bond, because the question says it should not be less than. Then the final question say that the investment in corporate and government bond should not be more than 50% of the total investment. When you say it should not be more than, it means it should be less than. It should not be more than. It can't exceed 50%. That is what it means. So it means that when you want to state it, that the S4 and plus S5 should be less than or equals to, you've now find 50% of that total investment. That is how to state it. Have you seen how the problem, you now solve it in a linear programming, stating it in a model, which I say, this is a model now. You are stating it in a model to help you solve that problem. Then the next one component, I say non-negativity constraints. Non-negative constraint means that you now state everything how it means, which you say maximizing year. The first one is not percentage, which they say each one has. Then the constraint itself, which is the S1 plus S2 plus S3, which will be less than or equals to 1. This is 100 million, is a mistake. Then the other one, the S1 plus S2, which is you say should not be less, it will be less than or equals to 300 million. Then 300,000. The other one, S4, will be greater than or equals to S5. You are not stating everything. Then the last one, S3 plus S4, will be less than or equals to 500. Then the non-negative, we now say S1, S2, S3, will now be greater than or equals to 0. That is this thing. Then you remember that when you are stating this thing, the inequality, the other one is less than or equals to. Then the other one is less than. Then you know that the fourth one, S4 is greater than or do this thing so that everything will be in the same inequality sign. Then when you do it, you now say S, the first one said S, the other one is S4 is greater than S5. Then you want to do everything. Say, when you want to break this S4 is greater than this, you first of all say S4 minus S5 is greater than or equals to 0. Then, have you seen it? You are now breaking S4 minus S5 is greater than or equals to 0. Because remember, the thing is just S4 is greater than or equals to S5. But you are breaking it in non-negativity. Say S4 minus S5 is greater than or equals to 0. That's the changes now. Then a lot of them. Then illustration 2. When you go home, do that illustration 2. Look at it very well. See what's with this thing, and use that illustration 1. You will now state it the way I did the illustration 1. I want you that when you go, you look at that illustration 2 very well, using the knowledge you got in that illustration 1, and do that illustration 2. Then there are some assumptions. That is a limitation of this linear programming. One of it is linearity. What do I mean by linearity? The basic requirement of linear programming, that is being linear. When it means having a linear relationship. When I say, because it's this linear programming, being linear is meaning having linear relationship in the sense that when you want to, when you want product, when you effect one product, the other one will also be affected. Being everything have to be in relationship, have to be proportional. That's what I mean. Being linear relationship means that it has to be proportional in the sense that when you want to double output, the input will also be double. That's, let me just give you an example now. That you are in a production process now, and when you produce 1 unit of, let's say, bread, and maybe sell the bread at the rate of 500 naira. When you double the input now, the quantity and everything for you to produce like 200 breads, don't you know that the output will double, the profit will increase? Because when you produce 1 bread and you sell it at the rate of 500 naira, when you produce, let's say, 20 breads now, when you use 500 and multiply 20, you know how much you make. The output also increase. Everything has to be in a relationship, proportional, in the sense that as you are increasing the one side, the other side will change, because it will also increase. In the sense that when you are doubling the output, the input will as well double. Another one is setting. When you know what setting is, when you are setting, that's something will happen. That's the assumption of setting, meaning that something will happen, you know. But you know, in a reality, they are determined, because you don't know. In a real life situation, you can't just say, this is how this thing will be. Like you want to introduce a new product now, as I say, and you say, okay, when I introduce this new product, the demand will be high. Said, I must say it. You cannot say what the future will be. You won't say it until you test the market and see how it will go. It can't be said that it's certain, because it's futuristic. Then another one is when you talk of qualitative factors, that is being qualitative in the sense that when a linear program is being used to solve a problem, you know, it has a relevant variable that must be capable of assuming numeric values. That is numeric values, which require, they say, the application in this program involving qualitative factors like morale. You know, you have that's morale, motivation, goodwill, you know, that's qualitative factors that will make this thing to sell. You know, you have a good morale, you motivate your staff, and having a good name means that what you are introducing have a good quantity, you know, quality, you have a good quality in order to have a good will for this thing. Then we have already said what, like I already told you step in this linear program, which I say you first study the problem very well. When you study, you drive the objective function, which you have already done. Then that's how you are going to do it in order to get the best quality. Then another one is divisibility. You know, when doing this linear programming, is normally, it doesn't, you know, when we do like simplest method now, you know, when you do, there's a different method on this, there's one we call simplest method, although we might not do it in this, but I'm trying that there's simplest method of solving a problem. In this simplest method, this objective function, driving objective function, and cumulative objective function, which maybe we might do or not do, because I don't think whether it's in this thing. I want to explain it briefly so that you will know. When solving this simplest method, is normally, before you get to optimalism, it normally be in fraction, not in integer or whole number. It's normally results, before you get to optimalism, the value you normally come in fraction, you know, not integer or whole number. That's what this thing is trying to explain. Then we do the simplest method of this thing. If we still do it, you understand what I mean. For you to get to optimalism, the values is normally come in fraction. That's what it means, divisibility. It doesn't normally come in a whole number. Then they find out the constraints, which we have been saying, you know, the optimizing technique, that being, you know, having a limit. When you say constraint, having a limit that the resources can endure, you know, when you have a limitation, that maybe depending on the resources you have, you can't exceed on what you have. Using that resources, available resources you have, to apportion it in, you know, the time I use example, making bread and key, you know, the resources you have, how you are going to apportion it so that it will be available. You can't exceed what you don't have. That's all about the constraints, which I'll be saying. Okay, let's quickly go to, you know, second study we do, graphical approach to this linear programming. We have been talking of linear program, which there are three methods of solving this linear program, which I will say. One is algebraic, the second one is graphical, and the third one is simplest method, which I said. But we are not going to look at the graphical method of solving this linear programming. Let's look at this product, like this illustration. Let me just use this illustration so that you understand it more. That's a different model, A and B. You know, this graphical method meaning that, okay, let me even explain it. The graphical method is, what the graphical method is all about is that when you are dealing with two variables of this linear of constraints, that's what graphical method is all about. It deals with linear, the two variables, when the two variables is being used. And in a real life situation, this constraint is normally come in different variables. It's not normally lies only in two variables. That's why they say that graphical method is not even good, reliable, reliable method in tackling these problems for decision makers. That is, decision maker is the graphical method is not the good answer to solve a decision maker's problem, because you just deal only with two variables. Why other like simplest method and others deal with different various variables, but this graphical method deals only with two variables, which is not even acceptable in real life situation. That's why I say that in a good decision, a decision maker doesn't rely in this graphical method, because it can't give him the best answer to the problem being in existence. So this graphical method now, let's use this thing, this illustration to solve this graphical method for you to understand what I'm trying to show this. A and B, which is two variables now, which yield unit profit of 2,500 and 4,500 respectively. Each type of radio requires a certain amount of time for manufacturing of component parts and for assembly. So it means that these two models use this thing. Each type, this one requires radio, and this one for manufacturing, and the other one for assembly. That is the two distinct, A and B. He said that specify 1 unit of model A requires 5 hours for manufacturing and 6 hours for assembly. Then 1 unit of model B requires 4 hours for manufacturing and 10 hours for assembly. For the coming week, the company has available 400 units, 400 hours of manufacturing time, and 600 hours of assembly time. The minimum production requirements are 20 units for model A and 10 units for model B. You now say, first, that's told you. You now formulate, because this is the formulate it in a linear programming model. That, you know, I told you what model is. Model is normally in a mathematical form. You state it in a model. They now said the second one, using the graphical method, determine the optimal production level and the maximum profit. Let's now formulate this thing. All these things they are saying, model A and B. Then say unit profit of each. You know, model 1 say the first profit is 2,500. Forget about this mistake. The second one is 4,500. And you know, it have two components, manufacturing and assembly. When they manufacture, they have hours for assembly. For unit model A now, for this product A, they say that it has, to manufacturer, they take 5 hours to manufacture the product and take 6 hours to assemble it. For product B, they say for manufacturing department, they say they take 4 hours. For assembly department, they take 10 hours. Then minimum production now is 20 units, 20 units of production. Then the other one for B has 10 units. Then availability of the hours they're supposed to use and finish the job. The for A is 400 hours and the other one is 600 hours. You are now putting it in a linear programming model to maximize the profit being 2,500 for A and 4,500 for B. Then the constraint now. Constraint being for A, manufacturing hours for A is 5 hours. And manufacturing hours for B is 4 hours. That is why they say 5A plus 4B. And you know, for A, it takes 400 hours to produce, finish everything. That's the availability they have, that's why I say 400. Then for B, the second one, you take 6 for assembly. This one is for manufacturing. For assembly, for A, you take 6 hours to assemble it. For B, you take 10 hours to assemble it. And the availability hour for assembly is 600. That is say less than or equals to 600. And they say they have 20 units. A has 20 units and B 10 units. That's A is greater than or equals to 20 and B is greater than or equal to 10. Then A and B, have you seen how this linear programming is being done in a model, in a mathematical way? Always reflect back what quantitative technique is all about. You have to set the model in a mathematical technique to help management to take decision. Then when you do it now, we are talking of the graphical method. The problem continues. Say point A, maybe when the combination, this one is not saying that when they say another this thing, that they have a combination of 60 units of model A and 40 units of model B. Why point B represents 40 units of A and 30 units of B? This unit they're telling you is when you want to know the profit now, to know whether it violates this profit. That is when we are looking at feasible region. I will tell you what feasible region means. Feasible region means when you don't violate these constraints, the limits of these constraints. That is when you are talking of feasible region. We will still come to that. We'll still come to what it means by feasible region. Then let's go down. So when you solve this, for you to plot this graph now, the graph, you will equate, let's equate A to be 0. For you to know what B is, you say 5A plus 4B is, use equality sign, equals to 400. Assuming A is 0 now, B will now be 100. Assuming B is 0, A will be 20. Then you now plot the graph. You now say, for you to plot this first one, you are plotting A and B. You are seeing A and B. A is now, B will be 100 and A will be 20. You're plotting a 20 against 100. That is how to plot the graph. Then the second one, you still do it in the 600. When A is 0, B will be 60. And this one, when when B is 0 now, this one will be 10. You now plot 10 against 60. That is the two. You now find the intercept. But for you to know whether this thing violates, that is you say that, and they told you that the actual hours for the manufacturing is 6 hours, 600 hours, and the assembly is 600 hours. And they said, if this the combination of this 60 units of model A and they have 40 units of model B, why the point B represents 40 units of A and 30 of B? For you to know whether the thing violates the production unit, when you now solve this 60 against the 5 for assembly, the question say 5A plus 4B is equals to 400, which is what they did. And the second one is 6A plus 10B is equals to is equals to 600. So for you to know whether it violates something, the quantity they say, assuming they gave you 60 units of model A and 40 units of model B, then the other one, point A, that is point A. The point B, 40 units of A and 30 units of B. So for you to solve the first one now, when you now say that's 60, they already told you that A represents 60 and B represents 40. And the question is, 40 gives you 300, give you 160. When you add 300 plus 160, you now get 460, which will be more than 400, which they say that is the availability. Have you say it's violated? Because it is now more than 400, which they said. So let's use the second one now. When the second one is 6A plus 40 plus 10B is equals to 600. And you know the point B, they say that A is 60 and B is 40. When you say 60 times 6, it will give you 360. 40 times this will give you 400. When you add it, it will be 760. Have you seen that 760 is more than the 600 availability? It shows that it violates it. Have you seen that the thing, it violated the rule? Because there are only 400 and 600 hours available for that department. It's violate that rule. But when you use the second one, although we didn't solve it here, but let's do the second one to know whether the second one, using the second one to solve, to know whether it's violated. The second one said, okay, assuming we use the second one now, which is which is 40. 40, assuming that A is 40 and B is 30, which is A, then for you to know this thing, you now say, which is 40 times 5, we give you 200. 30 times 4, we give you 120. When you add the 2, it will give you 320, which the first one availability is 400. Have you seen is less than? So it didn't violate it. And again, assuming the second one, which is 6A plus 10B, then the same thing, 40 will represent A and 30 represent B. You now say 40 times 5, 6, which is 240, which is 300. When you add, which will be less than 600, it means that that one did not violate the production level, that availability. So let's now go to the plotting the graph. When you plot the graph now, you are plotting the graph against this thing. I want to tell you that what we mean by visible region, which I say that when you plot the graph now, using that question against, let's plot that graph now. First of all, when you solve the first one, you plot the graph. The first question said 5A plus 4B is 400 and 6A plus 10B is 600. Then when assuming you equate B 0, for you to know what A is, A will be 8. When you say 5 divided by 400, it will be 8. And when you say that A is 0, B will now be 100. You are plotting graph of A, which is A is 80 against the B, which is 100. And the second one says when the other one is 6A plus 10B. So when you have the second one will now say when you equate A, the A will be, when you equate A, B will be 60. And when you equate B as 0, A will be 100. So the graph you are plotting now is the two axes is now A and B. The A axis, assuming you use one unit to be 20, 40 to 100. That's taking A as is, as 1 unit being 20 or 2 units being 20. Then you know how to plot graph. Then the first one, you are plotting when A is 80 and B is 100. You are plotting 80 against 100. That's A being 80 and B being 100. Then the other one is when A is 100 and B is 8, you now plot it. Have you seen the intersect? So that place, assuming you want to find the visible region, is that place that I say inside 60, the place that you have intersect now, the demarcation. I wish I will. Is there anywhere I will put this thing so that you see it? In your this thing, you will see, okay, let's plot the total graph now. Then we have plotted the two. Then the other one said 20 units. A has 20 units, then B 10 units. The same graph. This is A as it. A has 20 units and B 10 units. You now draw 20 units up, then 10 units when you draw it. Then when you plot this graph now, all those places that they have, this is intersect. The inside, that inside, you are looking at your this thing. That's in that this thing again. They didn't the shading is not that visible region is on shaded part. The visible region is on shaded part. That's what do I mean by visible region? The visible region is the region that does not violate the constraint. Is the region that does not violate the constraint. You know, is a portion of the graph that lies every solution point, which satisfy all the constraints simultaneously. You know, it means that it does not violate the relevant constraints that are located. That is what we mean by visible region. And that visible region, you use it to determine let's look at this illustration now. This illustration will help us so that you look at, there's one illustration in this that I will use that will help you understand what I mean by visible region. Illustration 2, because that's illustration 1. The drawing is confusing, it will confuse you. I think illustration 2, the drawing is better. So that's where you understand what I mean, how to get this visible region. This, the graph in illustration 2. Let me look. The illustration 2, which gave us, because that illustration, the graph is not correct. So let me use the illustration 2 that will explain this thing. 30A plus 20B. The profit is 30 naira, then 20 naira. Let's just take that is the profit. Then the constraint is now 3A plus 2B, which will be less than or equals to 900. And 2A plus 2B is less than or equals to 600. 20A plus this is less than or equals to 6,000. Let's use the graph to know what A is, what B is, for you to plot the graph first before you get the visible region. When you want to as A will be 300, because you now say when A, you make A the subject of the formula, you now say 300 divided by 3, 900 divided by 3, which will give you 300. Then the second one, when you make B the subject of the formula, then 4/5 when you divide it. Then also do this thing. There's a mistake. The B will be 200 because when you say the second equation, 2A plus 2B, when you make A the subject of the formula, they equate A as 0. B will be 300. Yes, B will be 300. Then the third one, the A also will be 300. Then the last one, when you make A the subject of when you equate A as 0, B as 0, A will be 200. It's a mistake. When it's 200, it's a mistake. Then the other one be 400. So let's now use it to plot the graph against each other, A against B. Plotting the graph now, first you plot the first one now. The first one was 300 against B. That is 450. When you get this thing, the way the first one is plotting 300 against 450. Then the second one, you are plotting A 300 against against 300, first 300. So you draw your own graph, plotting it. You first of all you plot the first one. A is 300. You are plotting 300 against 450. Because when you are doing your own graph, you plot it. Because forget about the mistake. It's listening and understanding. The second one, you are plotting A, which is 300, against B, which is 300. You plot it against it. You draw the line. Then the third one, 200 against 400. You see, you draw it. When you draw everything, some are intersect. That's inside. The inside being the one they say ZYX. That's ZYX0. Because 0 is insignificant because already there is 0 there. Then the ZYX0, that's what you call visible region. All the shaded parts, the profit with that is where you have maximum profit. That is visible region. It doesn't violate the constraints and you still make your profit. That place they did shade is what we call visible region because you still make your profit and you did violate the constraints using the available results and you still make your profit. Let's now test the optimality now, how the profit is being made now. By looking at this visible, you determine it from the visible region. The visible region now, you determine it from it. When you look at the first one now, when you look at the O is 0. When you look at the B axis now, which they say that's 0, the visible region now is 0x, Y, and Z. That is the area that is visible region. Then when you look at the B-axis figure in this, you look at the B-axis is 0 now. Then the A-axis being X is 200. Look at the B-axis now. You attach it with the X, the A-axis, which is X, which is 0 and 200. Then the second one you are determining now. That means that for you to determine S now, A is 200 and B is 0. Solve it and know the profit. Then for you to determine the Y, determining the Y now, you are looking at the point now. When you determine the Y now, A will be 100 and B as this is 200. When you look at the Y axis now, that intercept now, A, when you draw it down, that intercept now, when and to be axis, it will be 200. That's why I say for Y axis now, for you and B is 200. Look at the Z now. For you to determine the Z now, do the 300. Look at the Z now. Look at the Z. When you draw the Z for B axis, it is 0. And when you draw it down to A axis, so when you draw it down to A axis, it will be 0. Then when you check it in B axis, it will be what? It is 300. Z now, look at where it is in B axis, because after the Z in B axis, where it is in 3. It is still with determined to solve this thing and know the profit maximization now. Because I say that visible region is the region that you don't violate the constraint. That is where you make your profit without violating the constraint. Then let's use this visible region determined to solve this thing now. You know the profit before. For our profit for A is 30 and profit for B is 20. Then let's now using that visible region will determine that for X axis. First of all, we determine the X1. The X own, we say that A is 200 and B is 0. So us to know the profit maximization now, before our profit is 30A plus 20B. You now substitute A, the 30 times A is 200. And what is B? B is 0. When you substitute it now, 30 times 200 plus 20 times 0. Anything multiplied by 0 is 0, which is 30 multiplied by 300 is 6,000. Have you seen the profit is now 6,000? Then let's check the Y own. The first one, A for Y is 100 and B is 200. And you know the profit is 30A plus 20B. When you now substitute A being 100 and B being 200, you now say 30 times 100 plus 20 times 200, which is 3,000 plus 4,000. The profit now you are making is 7,000. For Z, the profit A is 0 and B is 300. When you substitute A being 0 and B 300, anything multiplied 0 is 0. Then 200 times this, you're making 6,000. Then the last one, A is for Y. For you to determine the Y part, which I say 200 and 100. Then when you substitute it now, which is A is 100, which is 30 times 100, which is 300. Then when plus 200 times 20, when you add it, it will give you 7,000. Have you seen how using invisibility for optimization now? You know, that is the region you make your profit and you still don't violate the constraint. That is it. So when you go, there's a lot of examples there in the idea, do the minimization. That's the assignment. Use it and now use the knowledge you have in that first illustration and do the minimization case. You understand it. You use it and do the minimization case. Then, any questions so far? So that, any question?
No question, ma.
I know, I hope you understood all I've been saying. When you go, you look at it very well. But I said initially that in real life situation, that graphical method cannot solve the decision maker because it has only two variables, two values. And in real life, there are many variables that the decision maker normally consider before the decision finally taken. You know, it doesn't just look at two variables. You know, look at different variables. Just know that one in mind. But when in simplest method is where you have many variables. You use the variables. It will not have the decision maker to now decide on what decision to make. It can't just rely on only two variables to bear in mind. But I mean that graphical method is not the best. You know, it's taking decision. It's not the best. It has, but it's not the best because you have only two variables. You know, relating with only two constraints. You know, but when you have to solve it, you have many constraints for you to decide which decision that you take. So any question? So your assignment, any assignment, you make sure you do it. I know I've been giving you assignment for you to do, just do it. There I will ask, you will post it. So when you go, I want you to do the minimization case. You know, we do optimization now. But you know what optimization, when you do optimization, it means you are looking at profit. But when you are doing at minimization, you are looking at what? Cost. I want you to know, I told you what visible region is all about. You know, I'm tying the graph in this, just understand what I mean. You know how to plot graph, do it on your own. Forget about how they do it, they did it in this, because a lot of mistake. But when you understand, if you understand what I've been saying, you will know what, I'm not relying on this thing because a lot of mistake, but know what I say. For you to do it on your own and read. I want you to do the minimization part. Any question? Any question?
Hello.
Hello, I'm here.
All right, sorry, I just want to find out. Is it the first assignment you are giving? Have you given anyone before?
Ask them the second one, the first one. Ask them. It means you didn't attend the class.
I was in the class, but the network wasn't. It was fluctuating. Other class also ended abruptly. The network was fluctuating. At the time, I was even disconnected. It's okay, I'll find out from them.
Okay, ma. Is it an assignment or you just said we should read the illustration too in the last class?
I asked you.
I didn't get you.
I say just read it well. I did the other one. I say if you go,
Hello, ma.
look anything about me at cost. Do you understand? Are you getting what I'm saying?
Okay, it's a bit clearer now. You said we should do what, ma?
I say when you go, you look at the minimization code. Because when I'm doing next class, I may ask you question.
Okay.
Are you getting what I'm saying?
Okay, ma. The minimization is under decision theory, right, ma?
We just finished linear programming, which I say graphical method. And I did the optimalism, how to optimize, which I say feasible region. And you know, we are doing optimize, when you're talking of optima, you are looking at cost. Is in your this thing, is in your model. That I say I finished the optima. Look at that minimization O. In that's the same linear programming we did today, not decision making.
Okay, ma.
I'm saying based on what we did today.
Okay, ma. Thank you.
Are you getting what I'm saying? Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes, ma. I did, ma. Thank you.
Just look at it so that you understand more on the first one I did. So that you do it and see the difference. Do you understand?
Hello,
so
ma'am.
another question.
Hello.
I'm listening.
Yes, ma'am. The first one is I don't know if it is from your end, but the network is very poor. You barely hear most of the things. Yes, ma'am. And then two, since this quantitative methods has to do with illustrations and then solving. The one we had yesterday, research methodology, there was this approach of using your screen. So probably the admin, it could help us to do that so that this can be, we can be seeing the working instead of those having some sort of imagination. Yes.
Okay, like this graphical method now. You're supposed to have been, but it's in your thing. I'm using the one in your thing to be explaining. Do you understand? Hello? I understood what you mean. Class.
Hello, yeah, we are with you.
Okay, what the graph? You didn't understand?
Yes, we do.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that's what I said, plotting it against. Then I said that after this thing, when you see the test we gave you, you see the feasible region, how we demarcate it. I say I explain it well, saying that some of them are mistakes. Then you don't, the feasible region is a shaded part where it doesn't violate the constraint and you still make your profit. And I used all those intersects to get it. You know, I explained everything. So So if you didn't understand, it's not even the best this thing to make decision because it has only 2 variables. It's just for you to know it in a real life situation, because everything we are doing, you still relate it in a real life situation. Which I also told you how to apply this linear programming in product mix. You know, in a real life situation, product mix, it is applicable in portfolio management and budget. All those ones, linear programming helps a lot in it, which I said. You know, product, knowing the quantity you are using in this one and also in this, depending on the resources you have, so that you use it proportional. Then in product this thing, budgeting, you know, in making advertisement. You know, when you want to make advertisement, how will I share it? You know, they have a lot of advertising, TV, newspaper, all these things. How you are going to share all these things? You know, you know, based on the sources, you know, everything rely on the sources you have. How you are going to apply it so that it will be equitable for you to get your profit. Then the other one is portfolio, which we use, do one example in investment, which I say you have 100 million and you're saying how to invest all this thing in this thing so that this 100 million, you use what you have to get what you want. That is this. And all this thing is applicable in real life situation. Then another method is now that graphical method. And I told you, they have a different algebra, graphical method, and simplest method, which I say in graphical method, you normally use 2 variables. When 2 variables, and I say 2 variables is not enough for decision maker to make his or her decision. It has to have different variables to enable the decision maker to make his or her own decision. So any other question?
All right, good evening, ma.
Eh?
Good evening, ma.
Good evening.
Okay, so most of the students here, they're on a WhatsApp group and they do have discussions, class discussions, questions that arise from these lectures. When they have questions that they want to bring to your attention, if they can post it on the discussion board in the LMS, and once in a while you go there and you answer it for them, because I believe with this class, most of them, they are a bit confused because it has a lot of calculations and solvings as one of them. So,
okay.
Go there and answer some of it.
Okay, yeah, you post it in the
in the discussion board of the.
Okay.
Thank you, ma.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello, ma.
I say, if you do attend my class, you surely know what I'm, because I normally explain.
You should not touch.
It. Then after the class, it's good after each class I had with you, just go back and read it immediately. You understand it more. Then when I finish, you just close it and maybe leave it till after 1 week. You will be confused. That is some things in mathematics, anything calculation, you tackle it. And when you are tackling it, use a real game, but just drop it. It will just be a new thing to you. But when you tackle it, maybe relate it in 1 or 2 problem situation, you will know what you understand it more. But That's that. Maybe as we go, you see, understand what I'm saying. Just have in mind what quantitative technique is all about. It's a mathematical based technique that help management. Mathematical, all the things you are doing, you know, when there's any question, we will do it in a model. That model, just model, you do it in a model, which will help you. And again, this quantitative techniques now, another two, this thing is how to formulate. That's really good. I didn't say something. There's two, how to formulate the model. And another one is to interpret it. Yeah, sorry, I omitted. That's the first is to formulate the model. And another one is interpreting it. Have you seen how we are formulating that model? The illustration, the first illustration I gave you, that common stock, preference stock, and everything, is a model that we formulated, which I say S1 plus S2 is less than or equals to 30%, which is 300 this thing. That is a model. Which for you to understand. It's not formulating it. When you formulate it and you can't interpret it, the decision can not be taken. Because all this thing lies in you are helping the management in taking decision. Because all this thing, we formulated the model now. There is a problem. The management, how am I doing this? That is the model you formulated. And as well, you interpret it for the management to understand, for him to now decide, this is how I'll take my decision. Can you understand? You know, I want you to, when you are reading this thing, relate it in, you know, some of you are business people, you have your business, relate it in one or two problems. It will help you. Anything when you are reading a mathematics something or this thing, always try and relate it in real life situation and see how it will be. You know, when I'm telling a product mix, you know, it happens. You have a flour, maybe 6,000 or one bag of flour. And this one bag, you say, how will I portion this thing to make bread and cake? Which one will I put more on bread? And which one will I put on cake? Because of the profit. So that my profit, I'll have a maximum profit. Because we're looking at profit and also minimize cost. Because when you are maximizing profit, you are minimizing cost. The cost must be minimized in order for you to maximize profit. Are you getting it? That's, if you are reading it, that's the way I want to relate it. When you relate it, it will be part of you. You know, I don't want a situation for you to read and cram. Just for you to know it, you know, relate it in a real life situation. You will know it will be part of you. So, any other thing?
No, ma.
Okay. I think we'll end it. I think I have to end it. Maybe next. I think I have you people again tomorrow. Production management. You do production management?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, we don't.
Okay, maybe you don't. Okay. For
Not
those
all
that
of
do
us.
production management.
Should be another.
Okay.
No, I
Tomorrow is production. Okay, no problem. So do what I said is a good tactic for you to get all these things. Oh, so I will end it for today. I wish all of you good night's rest.
Thank you, ma. Good night, ma.
Good night. Okay.
Like,
Bye.
Thank
Thanks.
you, ma'am. Good night.
Thanks.